Yes, Gaurav sir, please introduce our next speaker.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very nice talk from Dr. Sanjeev. Now we'll go ahead with our next topic, which is on carb A1C, the art and science of diabetes management, and it will be taken by Dr. Parag Shah. We all know him very well. I'll just give his brief introduction that he is a director of Gujarat Endocrine Center, and he is one of the leading endocrinologists in Ahmedabad. Over to you, Dr. Parag, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Mayur Bhai for giving me this opportunity at a Swasthyakon to talk about something important and very interesting. That is a carb A1C. We all know about the HbA1c, but we'll discuss what actually does the carb A1C means to us as a clinicians and how we can take care of this carb A1C problem with a pharmacotherapy and diet therapy. We understand diabetes so much in last 1.5 or 2 decades, and we also know that we Indians are different compared to Caucasian population as far as pathophysiology of diabetes is concerned. We all are thin fat Indians. We have more insulin resistance. We have higher risk of diabetic related complication. We have high risk of cardiovascular disease. We have a more chance of early decline in the beta cell mass or the function. Our diabetes occurs at least 1 to 1.5 decades earlier compared to Caucasian populations or compared to what was seen 3 to 4 decades ago. And we got an excellent pharmacotherapy options available. With last 1.5 decades, we saw a huge surge in the number of oral as well as injectable therapy for better management of type 2 diabetes. But if you see the ground reality not only in India but globally is quite different. In spite of advancement in the pharmacotherapy, most of the patients, here you can see any part of the country, you see 80% of the patients are having A1C, which is not in the range, and most of the patients are ranging average A1C between 8 to 9 percentage, which is quite above our target. So what is the missing? We got excellent pharmacotherapy, but what is missing is the taking care of the high carbohydrate load in our diabetic population. So we just give a treatment, but there is missing link is the taking care of the carbohydrate. So higher the carbohydrate intake, more would be the glycemic variability, more would be the postprandial as well as the fasting, and 24-hour hyperglycemia leading to weight gain, increase into mortality. So all this together, ultimately carbohydrate would not only increase the HbA1c, but it will increase the morbidity and mortality significantly. So there is a significant role of high carbohydrate and increasing into the HbA1c. You can see here the amount of carbohydrate consumed per day, and the correlation is very clear with the A1C value. Higher the carbohydrate consumption per day in a diabetic patients, more would be the HbA1c. Not only the HbA1c would be high, but there will be more surge postprandially specifically among the Indian diabetic patients. And what is the ground reality? Actually, we have done a study called STAR study where we took the patients from north, east, west zone and central part compared to non-diabetic populations, diabetic population. There is not much difference into the type of calories consumed by different types of the food. Almost 65 to 70% of the calorie are coming from the carbohydrate, which is huge amount. While the ADA recommends per day carbohydrate intake in a diabetic patients should be 165 gram per day. But what is the ground reality? You see the ground reality of Indian populations, male or female. Instead of recommended 165 gram of carbohydrate to be consumed in a day, we consume around 400 gram of carbohydrate. So more than 2.5 times the recommended amount of carbohydrate we are consuming, and which ultimately would translates into the high postprandial hyperglycemia, leading to the higher HbA1c in our populations. And we don't just consume the too much of carbohydrate, but our body probably responds differently compared to Caucasian population. So Indians given versus Caucasian given the same high carbohydrate food like different types of the cereals or the biscuits or the sweet biscuits, you can see the glycemic response to the food among the Indians is totally different compared to Caucasian population. So we have got a double problem: high carbohydrate intake, and second, the same amount of carbohydrate compared to Caucasians, we have a more hyperglycemia, and there is a more glycemic variability or more peaks occurring at least 3 to 4 times in a day when our most of the foods are containing high carbohydrate intake. And there is a very significant correlation not only with the diabetes and hyperglycemia, risk of all cause mortality is highest if the patient is taking too much of carbohydrate. So we should be having the food as a medicine, otherwise medicine should be like our food. And to change somebody's lifestyle, it is very nicely quoted, and all of us have experienced by Margaret Mead that it is easier to change a man's religion than to change his diet. So it's very, very tough for somebody to suddenly change their dietary habit, because one person cannot change their dietary habits suddenly because they got a diabetes. The whole family needs to be change their lifestyle. So we have to manage this carb HbA1c. So Indian type 2 diabetic patients face three unique challenges. One is a physiologically, we got a higher genetic tendency, high familial aggregations, high central obesity, leading to the more insulin resistance. We consume too much of carbohydrates and too much of calorie. We have a less physical exercise. We got a less lean skeletal mass. We got at least a decade earlier onset of diabetes. That is how we differ. We got a more insulin resistance. We require higher levels of insulin because of high insulin resistance. We need to produce more insulin to keep the sugar under control, and high ppg across all HbA1c values compared to Caucasian population, whether A1c was 7 or 8 or 10 or 11. HbA1c contribution from the postprandial sugar is almost more than 60%, irrespective of the HbA1c, compared to Caucasian population where higher HbA1c, more contribution is from the fasting hyperglycemia. We got a treatment challenge. Average A1c in our patients is 8 to 9%. There is a compliance issue. 60% of the diabetic patients forget to take daily medications. So we need probably to decrease the pill burden. We have to take care of the economical considerations to improve the compliance. So we have a problem of carb HbA1c, we have a problem of insulin resistance and insulin secretions, and another problem is with the compliance with the medication. So we got a complex problem, and we got some solutions where we can tackle these complex problems of high carbohydrate intake, induce high HbA1c, and increase into the hyperglycemia, as well as increase into the morbidity and the mortality associated with it. So one of the excellent agents in our Asian type of the patients or Indian patients is the AGIs. We all are using the AGIs for more than 2.5 decades now. So AGIs acts as a carbohydrate restriction mimetic. So if patient cannot restrict the carbohydrate intake in their food, we wish that patient's physiology or pathophysiology mimics like carbohydrate restricted diet. So it mimics the action of low GI diet and provides a better PPG control if the patient is on AGIs. It is known to smoothen the postprandial glycemic excursions, glycemic variability, as seen in the CGMS or the AGP reports, which we are now doing almost quite frequently. It not only just improves the glycemic control and the glycemic variability, it improves the gut microbiota. We got excellent data with acarbose leading to improvement into the gut microbiota. And our focus in allopathy now is shifting to have the better gut health or better gut microflora. And it's not only neutral as far as the hypoglycemia is concerned, but it is an excellent agent as an anti-hypoglycemic agent. So it does not just induce the hypoglycemia, but if somebody is on sulfonylurea or insulin, if they are given drugs like AGIs, it delays the entry of glucose into the bloodstream after meals. So there is a slow and sustained release for a prolonged period of time. So intermeal hypoglycemia, when the patient is on AGIs, the chances is significantly decreasing because there is a trickling which continues for some more time, then intermeal hypoglycemia is significantly less. So it does not induce hypoglycemia, but if hypoglycemia is to occur because the patient is on secretagogues or in insulins, if the patient is on AGIs, there is a continuous entry of the glucose into the plasma. So chances of hypoglycemia is significantly reduced. What about the another beauty of this class of the medications, whether it's acarbose or voglibose, it does not get absorbed into the systemic circulations. There is no active metabolites into the systemic circulations. So it is relatively safe in the patient with a diabetic nephropathy. So this is just an example how voglibose acts as a carbohydrate restrictor mimetics. If the patient is treated with the voglibose, you can see here that the blood sugar profile significantly flattens out compared to patient is just on the diet or other pharmacotherapy. So AGI transfers the high GI diets into the low glycemic index diet, and which will translate into the significant reduction into the HbA1c, significant reduction into the postprandial hyperglycemia. And people sometimes wonder how AGIs would reduce the fasting hyperglycemia also, because of the spillover effect of the previous meal. Like for fasting, the post dinner sugar is high, which will translate into high fasting blood sugar. Once the postprandial sugar is controlled, the glucotoxicity will go down, and it will also help to reduce the fasting hyperglycemia also. And because there is a slow and sustained increase in the glycemia postprandially, body would reduce less would need less amount of insulin. So there is a significantly less postprandial hyperinsulinemia. So it will help into the significant reduction into the HbA1c overall. So voglibot delays the absorption, it reduces the postprandial glycemia, and very important role of AGIs is the release of the GLP-1. The undigested complex carbohydrate will remain into the distal part of small intestine for a longer period of time. So L cells are stimulated, and there is a release of the GLP-1, which will again further help into reduction into the HbA1c. That is how actually AGIs has a multiple role to take care of the pathophysiology because of the hyperglycemia postprandially, which is occurring because of the Indian phenotype, because of the high carbohydrate index. And AGI acts better with high carbohydrate rich diet. If you see the Western guidelines, it does not even mentions the AGI as one of the important agents because they find it to be a weak agents. But we got a lots of studies from Asia, specifically India and the China, where the carbohydrate is our staple food, and the A1C reduction compared to Caucasian is 0.5 into Caucasians and 1.4% reduction in the HbA1c with the AGI. So higher the carbohydrate intake, probably higher our genetic tendency to tackle with the high carbohydrate diet. AGI is one of the very important agent in our armamentarium to tackle the postprandial as well as HbA1c reductions and improve the glycemic variability. So there is a reduction in the glycemic variability seen, and addition of voglibose significantly improves if you do the CGMS in the time in range for the glucose, because time in the range of the glucose is mainly because of the postprandial hyperglycemia. And if you are giving the secretagogues or insulin to tackle the postprandial hyperglycemia, patient is likely to go for the hypoglycemia. So if you add the drugs like AGIs like acarbose or voglibose, the time in range in the patients, if you do the CGMS or the AGP, is significantly improves. What about the role of metformin? We all know metformin is an excellent insulin sensitizer, specifically at the hepatic level, but it has a lots of other benefit. It helps in the patients of heart failure also. It reduces the lipotoxicity. It improves the GLP-1 activity also. So if you combine acarbose or voglibose with metformin, there is a significant increase in the incretin hormones like GLP-1 receptors, GLP-1 hormones, and it will help further to reduce the HbA1c significantly. So metformin also helps for have the better GLP-1 secretions. What about the role of glimepiride, which is our old time-tested friend? Now we all are using. So glimepiride is the drug which reduces HbA1c, which reduces the fasting, and it improves the beta cell function. So HOMA beta also is improving, and we were worried about the cardiovascular safety of the glimepiride, but the Carolina study where linagliptin was directly compared with the glimepiride and the cardiovascular outcome trial, the 3-point MACE, there was no difference if the patient is on linagliptin versus glimepiride. So it is very safe from cardiac point of view if you are giving the glimepiride. So if you add voglibose in a patient who is on glimepiride with metformin, which will have a better glucose control, And now we got a triple drug combination available, which will reduce the pill burden, cost, and it will improve the HbA1c and glycemic variability. You can see here the triple drug combination glimepiride, metformin, voglibose significantly reduces the HbA1c, postprandial hyperglycemia, and to a certain extent fasting hyperglycemia also. So to tackle the high carbohydrate load into diet, high ppg, high glucose profile across the day, translating into the high HbA1c, you have the AGIs, which will translate this into the low GI diet, lower the postprandial hyperglycemia, and lower the HbA1c. So to manage the carb HbA1c, you should be having the drugs like glimepiride, metformin, and the voglibose, which will not only just reduce the HbA1c, it will reduce the glycemic mean variability also significantly. So this is just in a last 1 minute, I will just summarize what actually is translated if you do the AGP. This is the patient on AGP showing the postprandial hyperglycemia. If they are given the AGIs, you can see here after few days, 2 or 3 days, all the postprandial surges are significantly reduced without producing hypoglycemia, and the time in range is significantly improves. And this is again another patient. All throughout patient is having hyperglycemia, and if the patient is added triple drug combinations, you can see within 3 or 4 days, most of the time patient is in the time in range without producing hypoglycemia or significant hyperglycemia. So after initiating the triple drug therapy, the postprandial peaks are reduced, hypoglycemia risk also is significantly reduced, and patient has a more smoother glycemic profile throughout the day. So if I summarizing my talk, carbohydrate intake is higher among Asians, specifically among the Indians. Carbohydrate is the major culprit for high glucose values and high postprandial hyperinsulinemia. Indian type 2 diabetic patient HbA1c is significantly induced by how carbohydrate is taken and how carbohydrate is metabolized in our body, and that is I say that this is the carb HbA1c. Restriction of carbohydrate rich diet is difficult, but if you give the drugs like voglibose with a glimepiride metformin combination, it helps to have the smooth control of carb HbA1c challenge without producing too much of hypoglycemia, without increasing the pill or the cost burden significantly. Thank you very much for your patience hearing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parag sir, for such an amazing session. And we have more than 1800 people watching right now.